Hi, I'm Ann. This week I'm bringing you block 7 in the Traditional Quilt Block Series, and this week's block is Jacob's Ladder. This one is a little more involved than the ones we've done so far, but if you're brand new to quilting and this looks like it would be a bit much, on page 2 of the pattern I have Jacob's Ladder Light, so you can do a simplified version if you prefer. And so far I have done the 9-inch and 3-inch versions. And you can see at this point I'm adding sashing and cornerstones as I go. I'm doing that as well for the 6-inch blocks. In the description below you'll find quilt layouts for both the throw size quilt and the baby quilt that gives you all the cutting instructions for that. And also in the description below is a link to get these block patterns for free. So let's sit down at the machine and put together the 6-inch version of Jacob's Ladder. All right, so I've got my fabric cut and I've got the pattern here. And this is page 1, Jacob's Ladder Normal, and page 2 is Jacob's Ladder Light. It's the simplified version. The funny thing is there's 4 pieces cut. There's 28 pieces when we're done. So there's some cutting and sewing to do. And so as usual, I will show you the illustration so that you will know what numbers the chart on the screen will be referring to. And so then here is the illustration for the simplified version. Okay, so the first thing we're going to do is make 4 patches out of these strip sets by putting these strips right sides together and stitching with a scant 1/4 inch seam all the way down one side. And though we do have wiggle room on the length, we do not have wiggle room on the width here. So just take your time, and if you haven't already cut your fabric, you can cut it wider and then trim it down. As usual, I'm using my 1.8 stitch length, which you really do want to reduce your stitch length from your norm when you're doing strip sets, because you're going to be cutting your seam apart in the middle. Okay, so we are going to press this to the dark side. First, just get that seam hot to relax it. And then I just like to finger press to open it up. For this 6-inch block, we're going to be subcutting these to 1.5 inches tall by 2.5 inches wide. So you can see I've got 2.5 this direction, so I'm just cutting them a hair large. We're going to cut 10 of these. Each one of these is a row in our 4 patches. We're making 5 4 patches, so we need 10 rows. So the name of this block has religious roots, and so do many other blocks. A few of them are King Solomon's Temple, Adam and Eve, Daniel in the lion's den, and there's actually a lot more. If you wanted to do some further research on that, you could just Google quilt blocks in religion, and you're going to find all sorts of information and learn about all of those blocks. All right, so back over to the machine, and now we are going to sew up our 4 patches. I'm going to need 5 of them, and since we press to the side, we're going to be able to nest these little buggers. Put your seams together like this, and you can feel when they're locked in together. And then go ahead and sew your scant 1/4 inch seam. All right, so let's take these over, and this time we're going to press them open. So when I'm pressing open, I like to press to the side first. Get the next one going. Then flip them over and open the seams up. Jacob's Ladder, this block is actually quite old. It's possibly one of the oldest ones, but there is some debate about how far back it dates. Some say back to the Revolutionary War, which is 1700s, late 1700s, and others say more around the Civil War era. So we're not entirely sure on that. However, I did find many quilts that are still surviving today that use this block from the early to mid 1800s. So it does at least go back that far. And the cool thing about Jacob's Ladder is that if you use different colorways on different areas of the block, or if you turn the orientation of multiple blocks that are together different ways, you can come up with all sorts of really cool layouts for a quilt with these blocks. And even the simplified version, I was able to come up with a few different cool layouts even with that simple block. So very versatile in that way. So I'm trimming these down for the 6-inch block. These are going to be 2.5 inches. So it is really important, I think, in a block like this that has so many pieces, to take the time to measure and cut in between each step. That way, if at this stage there's a problem, you're not just compounding it at each additional step. You can deal with it now. And so now we're making 4 at a time half square triangles, and we have done this so many times. So what we do is put these large squares right sides together, and we will stitch a seam all the way around 4 sides, 1/4 inch to the inside of the squares. And there is wiggle room on this. These are slightly oversized, so we'll be trimming this down. All right, over to trim this. So what we want to do here is line the ruler up with the corners of our stitched box. And we're going to slice it one direction and try not to move anything. Rotate it 90 degrees and cut diagonally the other direction. Trying to use the corners of the stitches, not the corners of the fabric. And we are going to press these open. when we look at this block, you can see right here and right here where all of these seams are coming together like this. This is why I'm wanting to press open at this point. Reducing the bulk in these areas is going to be pretty important, and it's still going to end up being fairly bulky, but every little bit helps. Okay, now we get to lay out our little block. So, double check. Yeah, looks right. So now we're just going to chain piece. The center row goes right sides together over the left row. And you can certainly pin these. Just take your time, scant 1/4 inch. And I am going to give these a quick measure. If anything's off, I'll give it a trim. Okay. Now we sew the right column to the left unit. I'm going to grab the Mary Ellen's Best Press. This will just help stiffen up those pieces a little. I do starch when I'm doing this kind of piecing. And what I do is just use spray starch. I use a picnic tablecloth, like those vinyl ones. Just lay that on my bed, and then I put the fabric down on top of that, and I just spray the heck out of it until it's soaked. And once it's soaked, I take it and hang it up over the top of the propane fireplace so that it dries quicker. Usually over the fireplace, it only takes like an 1.5 hours to dry or so. Okay, so at this point, we do have seams to line up. They're going to be at every intersection. So I'll be pinning. So for the seams that are pressed open, I'm just going to poke a pin right through those two seams at about 1/4 inch. So now for the final step that I'll be doing on each block, and that is to add a cornerstone and 2 sashings. The 6-inch blocks are the baby size quilt. So first I'm going to attach a sashing to the right side. All right, and so then I will just finger press this right sashing, and I'll attach the cornerstone to the right side of the bottom sashing. The bottom sashing I am finger pressing away from the cornerstone so that I can nest these two. Pretty good, pretty good. So I'm going to go press. All done for this week. Thank you for watching, and I'll see you next week for Block 8.